The National Security Agency is trying to downplay reports that it has secretly tapped into the servers of Google and Yahoo, allowing it to collect data at will from hundreds of millions of users' accounts. The NSA chief would not directly deny the report in the Washington Post, but said that the NSA is not authorized to access private data centers and must go through the court process. Meanwhile, the NSA's hacking of the phone of Germany's prime minister was the subject of a White House meeting between the two countries Wednesday. The head of German intelligence met with top White House national security officials to resolve the tension between the two countries. For more insight on what it's like to be the diplomat caught in the middle, our guest is Charles Dunbar, former U.S. ambassador to Yemen and Qatar. He is also a professor of international relations at Boston University, and he joins us on the phone from Brunswick, Maine. Ambassador Dunbar, thank you so much for taking some time with us. We do appreciate it.
Thanks very much. I'm pleased to be with you.
Of course, we've heard these reports all over the last week or two that the ambassadors have been summoned to France, summoned to Germany. That's not unusual, is it?
No, it happens all the time. That's how diplomatic business is done. And you often know the subject, and you generally know what the subject is going to be. You're going to know if it's contentious or just some exchange of views. But that's how diplomacy, one principal way that governments interact and get things done.
I know that you have been summoned while you served in your capacity as an ambassador. What exactly are these meetings like?
It depends very much on the meeting. I mean, sometimes the host government will want to make a point. When I was in Yemen, we invaded Panama to oust General Noriega, 1989 or 1990, and the Yemeni government didn't like it, so they convoked me, and this is something that is unusual for a host government to do. They convoked me on Christmas Day. They, of course, were working because they don't celebrate Christmas, but I was, and went down and listened to what my friend, the foreign minister, had to say, and gave the points that I had been instructed to give about the invasion, and we both went about our business. That's just an example of how you, as the host government, may express displeasure is to convoke somebody when you know it's not convenient for the person to come down.
Is it your role as the ambassador to allow the country who has summoned you to hear them out, let them vent, or what type of preparation do you go through before going into the meeting?
Well, it depends a great deal. I mean, normally you will be told by the government what the subject is, and so you have an opportunity to prepare if necessary. You'll get in touch with Washington and find out if there's any particular point you want them to make. One occasion that I can think of when that did not happen was my friend and former colleague, April Glaspie, who was ambassador to Iraq right before the Iraqis invaded Kuwait on August 2nd, 1990. She was summoned by a foreign ministry official, and then without having time to call the office, in effect, she was told that she was going to see President Saddam Hussein, which almost never happened. He didn't receive ambassadors very much. So that was an occasion where she would have liked, I would think, because it was a very tense time, to have been able to get an instruction from Washington, but the circumstances, very unusual circumstances, meant that she had to go in a sense, flying blind.
I just imagine, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a certain amount of pressure that you feel in these meetings. I mean, as an ambassador, the relations between that country and the U.S. are essentially in your hand. Is that right?
Well, some like to think so. I'd say an ambassador, American ambassador, at least when I was serving, and I don't think it's that much different, is a voice in the policy process. There are a number of interested parties, and the ambassador is one of those. However, you're absolutely right to say that the ambassador is the face of the United States government in in the host country. And sure, it can be tense. It can be very unpleasant if there's something that is troubling the host government or something that is troubling you, because you are often asked to go in and make some points about things that our government objects to that the host government is doing.
Sure. Some foreign policy analysts suggest that the spying that included the personal cell phone of German Chancellor Angela Merkel might present irreparable damage to the relationship between Merkel and Obama. Do you agree with that?
Well, I would very much hope not. The governments spy on other governments all the time, and with the exception of the 5 Anglophone countries that have pledged not to spy on one another, it is understood that this sort of thing is going to happen. That said, the cell phone of the Chancellor of Germany strikes me as being a bit much. However, it's a target of opportunity, and I suspect the other government would jump at the chance to do the same thing. I don't want to single out Germany in particular on that, to single Germany out or single Germany in. But the fact is that there is a great deal of spying that goes on. Something that has changed since my time is, of course, the explosion in information technology and the ability to gather so much information, not just to gather it, but to sift through it and find what you are looking for.
During your time that you served in your ambassadorships, were there any countries that you can tell us about that like to summon the U.S. Ambassadors a lot, that tended to want these meetings a lot?
Well, first of all, if they want the meetings a lot, that can very well be a good thing, because the meetings, I want to make clear, being summoned does not mean that the host government wants to give you a piece of its mind. The host government may indeed have something it wants to propose, have a conversation that continues, and it is a long-standing tradition that you go to see the host government, and that this is an important point. The host government typically, I mean, it sometimes happens, but their representatives do not come to the embassy to make points. You're the envoy, and you get envoyed over to whatever ministry it may be, or to the presidency, the office of the head of state or government. And so don't think that a summons means that it's negative. It can be very positive. But sure, I mean, if the relationship is contentious, there's going to be some summoning to have a conversation that is not a happy one.
I'm just wondering
but,
what
I want
you're...
to be clear, that's how the business is done.
Okay, I understand it. Got it. I just want to know what your personal perspective is here in these, particularly with Angela Merkel and also with France and Spain, as all of these revelations have been made from the Edward Snowden leaks. Are apologies in order here from the U.S.?
I think that's a little difficult. I think that is something, it could happen, and there's going to be all sorts of talk that should take place. But this is something that should just, I hope the two sides will be able to allow to blow over. It's difficult when it's done in the full glare of publicity. Spying is not something that you typically want to have on the front page of the New York Times or on the 7 o'clock news. But it's going to happen. It seems to me we have a very good relationship with Germany and with France and with Spain. These are governments that we have very good relations with. And it's in our interest to build the relationship. That double standard of the Anglophones supposedly not being spied on, and I guess I would take that at face value until told differently. But I think the thing to do, particularly since it's fairly clear that the intelligence services of the countries that are angry have been cooperating with us, is for the intelligence agencies to get together and to see where we move on from this to maintain what is, in the case of all three of those countries, a very important relationship for both sides, and try to get by this. If you think I'm dodging the question of whether there should be apology or not, you are very perceptive. I am dodging it because I think that is something that can only be worked out by the government concerned, and I don't want to go there.
No, I understand. Former Ambassador Charles Dunbar, thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it.